Ghostbusters Afterlife, do you think it's called that because after that failed abomination against humanity back in 2016, the franchise sort of died? But now it's back and let's talk about it. You're safe now. This is more or less a sequel to the original two films directed by Jason Reitman, whose father directed the original films back in the 1980s. I've been anticipating this film ever since watching the teaser trailer nearly 2 years ago. Yeah, it's been delayed a few times. And very quickly, before we dive deeper into this review and you see something strange in this video, I'm gonna give a call to the sponsor of this video. I'm sorry for that. Big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. I know a lot of you who watch my channel are aspiring filmmakers, and I'm just a dude who wants to make his YouTube videos look better. With that said, there's some great classes you can take about filmmaking, audio, cinematography, video editing. One class I recently checked out was called iPhone Filmmaking: Create Cinematic Video with Your Phone by Caleb Babcock and Niles Gray. Because sometimes I shoot videos or vlogs with my phone, and I want to try to make those look as cinematic as possible, and not just some video I shot on my phone. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads and they're always launching premium classes. So you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. So whether you're a pro, a hobbyist, or a master, there's classes for every skill level. The first 1,000 of my subscribers who click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So you can start exploring your creativity today. As always, guys, thanks for listening. Let's get back to the video.
And now, our feature presentation.
Now, when it comes to the original Ghostbusters, I'm a huge fan. It's almost lightning in a bottle. It's the perfect blend of comedy, directing, craftsmanship, the practical effects, that 1980s vibe. The movie has Bill Murray in it. Do I need to say more? And as far as the sequel goes, it was okay, but I still stand by this. Vigo the Carpathian, the villain of the second film, is still the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and he still haunts my dreams. Alrighty, the basic plot to this new film is we follow a mother who is the late Egon's daughter, and she has 2 teenage kids. And as far as the character of the mother goes in this film, she sort of comes across like an older sister to her own children, and I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but for me, she just came across really bitter throughout the entire movie and unlikable. I was like, this is a human being I would not want to be around. Her only real concern is getting her inheritance because she's not very financially stable. And due to their financial issues, they relocate to their grandfather's creepy house in the middle of nowhere to start a new life. But what they don't know is there's evil lurking in this small town. The main character in this film is 12-year-old Phoebe, who's the granddaughter of the former ghost-busting Egon, and she's the most likable character, the most interesting character, and I think overall the most well-written character throughout this entire film. She possesses all of the traits of her grandfather. She's very intelligent, she really enjoys science, she understands how to work mechanical devices that no other 12-year-old on the planet would ever figure out how to use, but somehow she just picks it up and knows exactly what it does and how to use it. It's like, come on, I don't care how smart you are, if you just picked up this new piece of technology that does not exist anywhere else, it doesn't matter how many books you've read, you don't know how to use a proton pack right away. But then again, it's a movie called Ghostbusters and it has ghosts in it, so what am I complaining about? And one little trait I enjoyed throughout this film is she tells these really corny jokes throughout, and I'd say 80% of them were actually funny. They're lame, but funny. It sort of reminded me of The Rock's character in Jungle Cruise. He did the exact same thing. And then you have the character of her older brother, played by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, and I would say it almost feels like they plucked his character out of Stranger Things, the series, and put him into this movie. But that's the role he was supposed to be in this movie. The older brother who gets a job flipping burgers because he has a crush on some chick. But very quickly, speaking of Stranger Things, if the writers of this film deny that they weren't inspired by Stranger Things, the Netflix series, I would find that hard to believe. And it's not only because some of the obvious casting choices where they borrow actors from the series. In many ways, the overall premise to this film is very similar to Stranger Things. You have this small town with this evil lurking beneath it, and a group of teenagers need to lead the way to save it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just an observation. I'm just saying it's very similar. It's essentially Stranger Things meets Ghostbusters. But I would say in this case, when those two things combine, I would say it's much weaker than Stranger Things or Ghostbusters on their own. I would rather watch either one of those things over this over and over again. But before we dive into negatives, I have way more positives. I really enjoyed how this film had sort of a timeless take, and what I mean by that is there's not a heavy use of modern day technology. You don't see kids on their smartphones every 5 minutes. They sort of have this 1980s look and feel and vibe to them, even the way they dress, talk, their hairstyles. It almost looks plucked out of the 1980s, which I really enjoy, and it'll help the timelessness of this film. So yeah, I give that 2 thumbs up. Now let's go back to the original Ghostbusters films. At times, those are raunchy comedies, and anytime you have Bill Murray in a comedy movie, it's going to contain raunchy, dark comedy, and that's what I love. And Ghostbusters Afterlife is funny at times. I really enjoyed Paul Rudd's character throughout this movie. He's essentially a summer school teacher, but he's really lazy and just shows his students 1980s horror films instead of teaching them anything. And I was like, yeah, if I was a teacher, I would do the same thing. Today, guys, we're watching Cujo, and tomorrow we're watching Child's Play. And I thought Paul Rudd was really funny throughout this movie. Even though he says some really bizarre things at times that feel slightly inappropriate, I still liked it, but he essentially just plays Paul Rudd. You either like that or you hate it, and I think Paul Rudd's a likable dude, so I liked it. Now let's talk about fan service, and I've always said this. I'm a fan, so service me. That sounds weird, but I stand by it. My simple motto on fan service is, as long as it doesn't stop the story and keeps flowing, then put it in the movie. And at times, Ghostbusters Afterlife does that to perfection. There's little details and subtleties, and even if you're a casual fan of the original movies, there's a lot of things you're going to pick up on throughout this movie. And at other times, it's a little bit too on the nose and obvious, and it's almost like the movie stops to wink at you and go, oh, remember this thing from a better movie that you've already seen, but we put it into this movie? Here it is. And for example, this isn't a spoiler, it was in the trailers for the movie and it gives nothing away whatsoever, but there's a scene where Paul Rudd's character goes to Walmart, which is my home away from home, and speaking of Walmart, definitely check out my second channel. I put a first reaction after watching this movie where it actually takes place in Walmart. So yeah, go watch that video, link down below to my second channel, it's a good time. Now let's get back to my example. In this scene, Paul Rudd goes to Walmart and he's buying ice cream, and he encounters the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but in miniature version, jumping out of the packages, chasing him through Walmart, getting into mischief and mayhem, and it almost made no sense. I get that they wanted to put the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in this movie as a reference and a nod to the original film, but it just makes no sense, and here's why. Because in the original Ghostbusters, Dan Aykroyd's character is trying to imagine the least threatening thing he can possibly come up with, and it's a giant marshmallow. So it makes sense. But in this movie, a package of marshmallows just come to life and start attacking things. It's like, okay, why didn't a pack of hot dogs come to life? Why didn't a pack of Sour Patch Kids come to life? Which, by the way, that would have been really cool. Yeah, it's just little details like that they tack into the movie that are entertaining, but I just wish it would have made sense somehow. And now, here are my final flicking thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It's funny at times, it has drama throughout the movie, and I think it's a good conclusion, though I wouldn't say it's exactly Ghostbusters Part 3. I would say it's a nice conclusion to those other 2 films that's not insulting to watch. And it's a hell of a lot better than that 2016 abomination against humanity. Blah! And I think the director Jason Reitman made a very competent film where he pays respect to the original movies. He gives you a lot of nods, and he does give you a lot of fan service. At times, it really does work. At other times, like I said, it feels a little bit forced. But overall, if you're a hardcore Ghostbusters fan, I think you'll enjoy this movie for the most part. And if you're just a casual moviegoer, it's an entertaining movie. It's a fun ride for the most part. I mean, sure, it's choppy at times, and I didn't love everything that happened. But by the end of the film, I got the conclusion I sort of wanted from the original 2 Ghostbusters in a way, and I thought they did what they could with this movie. So I'm going to give Ghostbusters Afterlife this score right here. Now here's my question for you, and let me know down below. What did you think about the movie if you've seen it, or what is your favorite ghost movie of all time? If I had to pick one, I might go with Ghost starring Patrick Swayze. I don't know why, just it makes me cry when I watch it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. That way I can see you next time. Take care.